heading to make podcast number
King
2.
Ball, baby.
Let's
King
get
Ball.
it.
Not even tough.
That's okay.
Hi guys, welcome to the second episode
Third.
of the.
Sorry.
Dude.
I thought we were doing mine.
Welcome to the second episode of the Environmental Podcast. And on today's fantastic episode, we'll be discussing the connections to the SDGs. SDGs are Sustainable Development Goals. These goals are a set of international development goals set in 2016 to be achieved by 2030.
I think our problems, SDGs, connect most of to 13.3, improving awareness, raising in human institutional compaction on climate change, mitigation, adaptation, impact reduction, and early warning.
Yeah, I agree, because if teens knew how much CO2 they emit, they would realize how bad it is and find ways to reduce their emissions.
As years goes on, technology is being introduced and more fossils are being used for fossil fuel. In result, the global carbon fossil emissions have skyrocketed and show no signs of declining.
It's ours.
Yeah, ever since I found out about how carbon is affecting our ecosystem, I've planted a few trees and plants. This will help in taking the carbon and producing oxygen for all of us.
In total, there are 8 billion people in the world and 3 trillion trees in the world. If all of us planted one tree, it still wouldn't be enough. Somehow we were able to plant 160 trees. We would be able to cancel out a decade's worth of CO2 emissions and be set for life.
One thing I have done to cut the emissions of my garbage usage was get an electric car. I have seen how much fuel and smoke from the fuel has been affecting not only our environment, but also the marine environment. It is one of the factors for many species in the water dying.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Many have switched to electric cars, such as Teslas and Priuses, in order to help the environment. I have done a quick Google search and saw it was working.
As it turns out, gasoline cars are made with 7 metric tons of emissions, and electricity cars are made with 8 metric tons of emissions. However, this doesn't really matter because gasoline cars, as they drive, go through tons of emissions rapidly by extracting and refining and transporting to fuel gas stations. However, electricity cars go through much less tons of emissions by however they get their energy from. So by the end of the car's lifetime, gas cars usually go through 57 metric tons of emissions, while battery electric cars go through 28 tons.
Another SDG I think that our problem relates to is number 14.2, which consists of sustainably managing and protecting the coastal ecosystems to prevent serious negative impacts.
I agree. We need to protect the glaciers that polar bears live on and also attempt to restore the ecosystem because, as you guys already know, a lot of the ice polar bears live on have already been destroyed.
Here's a prime example and result of the ice melting in Antarctica, for example. And as you can see, as she's hauling herself out of the water, she's struggling to even get up the ice glacier. And look at how isolated the ice glaciers are from each other. Polar bears, like any other land animal, can only swim for so long. So once they are tired, they look for a glacier to rest upon. And eventually, polar bears will run out of glaciers like this one. And unfortunately, they will be too tired to even eat and hunt for food.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, it is a lot to restore with such little help, but that is why we are spreading awareness for this cause.
What you can do to help us spread awareness is share this to 20 people and donate to such charities on the screen. Doing this, you will not only help us achieve our goal, but also help these poor little animals such as polar bears and many more glacier animals. Thank you.
This cause.
And that concludes our second episode of our podcast. And I'll catch you guys next time. Laters.